Everybody, we made it. We made
We
it.
did. We're here, Seth. Did we honestly ever imagine the day? Did we conceive of a timeline in which we were actually ever able to see the release of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah, man. We made it. We're here. We are recording the first segments of our show live at youtube.com/allinpodcast right now. Recording the weekly Nintendo variety show where each and every week no shells left unturned, no points left unearned. Recording a little bit earlier in the week than we normally do. Because in just mere hours at this point, as you guys are listening to us, if you're listening to us on the podcast, we've already picked it up. But if you're watching us live right now, like Lockleth and Keegan Dewitt are, shout outs to them live in the chat.
Locke with that awesome new haircut.
Yeah, we are just hours away from picking up our copies of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And it does feel weird, y'all. It
does, man.
Doesn't feel real.
Like you and I've been talking about it as journalists and news, in an empirical format for so long, you forget that it's a real life thing that you're going to be able to interact with. And all of a sudden, like you and I have been talking about it for literal years on this show at this point, long before we even knew what the name was. But here, in just a couple hours, we're actually going to be able to play it. It's no longer going to be just a news story. It's going to be a real life thing. And, based on the early reactions.
Yeah, the reviews have been insane.
Yeah.
Totally insane. Yeah.
Totally insane, which directly impacts us here at All In because, of course, when you and I decided to do our fantasy draft critic against our hated rivals, the Nintendo pals, not really hated, but against our bitter rivals, the Nintendo pals, essentially, however we decided first, it was effectively whoever was going to pick Tears of the Kingdom.
It was who gets first pick at Tears of the Kingdom because we knew...
Yeah. We flipped to see who got Tears of the Kingdom, essentially.
Yeah, because, spoilers, it's a Zelda game. Sounds like it's pretty decent. So, yeah, I'm really, really excited. We're here in the final countdown. Lockleth actually shaved her head because she doesn't have time to do her hair if she's playing Tears of the Kingdom all weekend. So that's why she shaved her head. Got that Furiosa look going on.
Dude,
I love it. Yeah,
I dig the short hair look. Lockleth, I dig it.
She's
the shorn, the cozy G.I. Jane look. I like it.
Yeah, dude, she's crushing it. But you know who else is
crushing it? You know who also crushes it?
Mind meld. Of course, Eric, the people who crush it are the people who make the dreams come true over at patreon.com/allinpodcast. Big thanks and shout outs to everybody who supports us over there. Tons of friends and supporters supporting us over there. And we want to thank them, especially our Golden Banana tier patrons like Rob Yapel, Third Strongest Mole, Sean O'Baggins, Ashton, Tim A, aka NeoPrime33, aka Nintendo Dad number 4, Matt, Shy Guy City Murray, Phelan Ward, Bill Tucker, Marcus O'Neill, Liam D, Solo Something, Bowza, and Gamer Jason. Big thanks to our Golden Banana bunch. But let's thank our Triforce tier. Da-na-na-na. Gotta thank Josh Vaughn, the godfather of Tingle Love Tuesday, John Datfast Cummins of the Retrologic podcast, as well as the On Topic Retro podcast, the Globetrotting, Jet Setting, Nintendo Hubbin', Breath of the Wild, Art Book, Sharon Sparky.
It's so pretty.
It's so good. Adam Caparello of the Retro Groove podcast, as well as the Octorock 1982 YouTube channel, Shy Guy, the other half of our Shy Guy mod squad, Daniel Inahosa, Dan and Luma, and the legend himself,
the hero of time, the man who deserves an extra. This Tears of the Kingdom weekend, Uncle Randy.
Uncle Randy, man. Big shout outs to Uncle Randy. Thank you guys so much. Everybody who supports us over there at Patreon. We love you guys, and your support means the absolute world to us. Eric, we also have an inordinate amount of Spotify reviews this week.
I think we do good work, Seth. So I'm going to go ahead and call it an ordinate amount of
Okay.
reviews personally.
That's fair. I mean, they're deserved for sure, but there was an uptick in Spotify reviews this past week. So big thanks to everybody who left us a 5-star review on Spotify. We got, I believe, 4 new Spotify reviews just in the past week. One of them, at least, I know was Presto the Magnificent.
Hmm.
So shout outs to Presto, who I believe has now reviewed us in just about every way possible. Except for Audible. Get on Audible, Presto.
Yeah.
That's the last place I think Presto has not reviewed us. Of course,
Trying to catch them all.
that's right. You can, of course, be like Presto and review us. Drop us some words if you want. 5-star reviews, Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, and Audible, and then anonymous 5-star ratings on Spotify. All very, very appreciated. Thank you so much to everybody who left those Spotify reviews. Yeah, man, I feel a little like discombobulated. I'm just like sitting here basically watching the clock countdown. We're doing this a little bit earlier in the week. Immediately after this, we're going to a birthday party for my wife, and then basically
Yeah.
immediately after that is Tears of the Kingdom time.
It's
So,
also my mother's birthday today, so
oh my
there's
gosh,
that.
birthdays and
Yeah.
Zelda.
It does help, it does admittedly help me remember my mother's birthday. The fact that it occurs Mother's Day weekend. So,
Yeah,
so I do appreciate my mom for having that much foresight
that's good.
in the choice. So thank you, Mom. I
Considerate.
appreciate that.
Considerate
Yeah.
of
Very
her to
considerate
choose,
of her.
choose
Incredibly
her
considerate.
birthday.
Yeah, she's a saint for doing that for all of us. But yeah, man, it's a lot going on. No, too much. Arguably too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what have you been Bowser in the chat says what snacks are we getting for Zelda? Getting some
Ooh,
snacks?
snacksies. Ooh, that's a good one. I peanut butter pretzel kind of guy over the past couple of years. You
Yeah.
know, some chips. I don't know. When it comes to chips, my tastes have changed quite a bit over the past few years. I used to be very big in Doritos in my teenage and college years, but as I have matured, I have slowly but surely found my way into the sour cream and onion and salt and vinegar side of the spectrum personally. How about you?
Yeah, I mean it's funny. I don't really eat snacks when I play games, to be honest with you. Every now and then I
I don't
like
either.
to.
I'm worried about getting like oils and stuff on my
Right.
controller.
I'm exactly the same way. Yeah, I
I
typically
actually
don't.
wash my hands like every 45 minutes while I'm
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah, I wash my hands a lot too. And I always wash my hands before touching my controller.
Hmm.
I'm a little bit of a stickler for that. Um, so I don't really eat snacks while I play games. There was a time I had a little stint there where I like to have a bowl of like cashews, unsalted cashews. Salt just messes up. Yeah,
Unsalted?
no salt. No salt on my mixed nuts. No salt. I prefer just the taste of the raw nut. You know what I mean? Especially cashews. Cashews have like that nice sweet flavor. So
Speaking of taste maturing, I've actually become a big pistachio guy over the
love
past
them,
couple of years too.
love them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
become huge into pistachios over the past couple of years. But I mean, when it comes to drinks, I've never really matured beyond Mountain Dew. I still, if I'm going to have something, that's always my first choice.
I'm a big water guy. I feel
That's
so
fair.
old answering this question. I'm like some unsalted nuts and some water,
Yeah.
and I'm So, anyways,
traditional gamer stacks, like trail mix,
yeah,
water.
yeah, very very
How do you
traditional
do,
gamer
fellow
food.
kids?
Totally, yeah, yeah. Get my AARP card in the mail later today. They have actually the AARP has tried to get me to sign up several times.
Oh, woof,
Yeah,
woof.
yeah. Anyway, enough
Any
about that,
user,
Eric. Um,
any
Tears
user.
of the Kingdom is obviously top of mind. Snacks are top of mind, but that is a little bit later. What have you been playing this past week? What's been going on?
Whew, well, this past week, I've got to say we did a big Star Wars thing last week for, the May the 4th weekend, obviously, but it really got me in the mood to play some of the Star Wars games that we were talking about. And I've had my LRG copy of Force Unleashed for quite some time, but I wound up playing the game back. I beat the game like 3-4 times back on the Nintendo Wii when I first owned it. Hadn't played the Switch version yet. I remedied that this past weekend, however, and actually completed 2 full playthroughs of The Force Unleashed this past weekend on the Nintendo Switch. And I've got to say, I still really, really like that
Still
game.
holds up.
There's some obvious jank. There's some obvious jank there. One of the big things about the game are these kind of big, involved lightsaber duels
Yeah.
that you get to take part in. If I'm being completely honest, though, like doing damage in those is super inconsistent. Like they're nice and flashy and cinematic and they're cool and they're not too difficult, which does help. The game's like the game itself isn't that difficult at all, which certainly helps with some of the jank and the inconsistency when it comes to the damage. The fact that death isn't really a danger most of the time. But yeah, there are some obvious objective issues with that game, but it's still so much fun. The entire point of the game is especially at the time when it came out, you could argue that Jedi Survivor and games like that have kind of taken that ball and run with it a little bit. But when it came out, they really looked at Star Wars and said, there's never really been a game that just lets you go ham with the Force that has really taken that idea to its logical conclusion. And they essentially turned Starkiller, Vader's secret apprentice, Sam Witwer's character in the Force Unleashed games, into essentially just a force of nature. And no matter how many times I force push Wookiees or stormtroopers or rebel soldiers or Mandalore or whoever, and many times as I force push them off of cliffs, or how many times I force grab somebody and sling them off of a bridge, how many stormtroopers that I fry with force lightning, how many unsuspecting civilians I force choke to death. It just remains incredibly satisfying the entire way. Just throwing, again, you're just a force of nature in that game, and it's so satisfying just running through and laying waste to the entire galaxy. 2 full playthroughs of that game. I unlocked all the characters for the 2-player dual mode, which I'm never going to have the opportunity to play because it's not online.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just a port. It's not a deluxe version or anything like that. It was just a port, and the original Wii version didn't have online. It's cool though. They got a cool cast. And it's cool that they added it into the game. So if anybody does ever show up, and I do ever have the opportunity to play local multiplayer, then we can go Qui-Gon against Maris Brood or Obi-Wan against Vader's secret apprentice in these Jedi duels. But I still had a ton of fun this past weekend. Oh, so good. So much so that I actually wound up, we talked about Star Wars Pinball a little bit in the top 5 as well. I wound up buying a brand new copy of that. I had played it on the Wii U, had played it on the 3DS, but I hadn't played too much of it on the Switch. So I went ahead and ordered myself a new copy of Star Wars Pinball, which should be in hopefully within the next few days, so that I can sit it on the shelf and not play it while I'm, loving Tears. Yeah. So I can just ignore it while I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom. In addition to that, I put a little bit more time into finishing off several other things like Horizon Chase Turbo and Breakers Collection and several other things. But the big other thing that I did this week is I finally started the Mega Man Battle Network collection. I finally started playing my first Mega Man Battle Network game, and I had heard some thoughts in our Discord about the level design in the first Mega Man Battle Network, and it's pretty mind-boggling how somebody could design a game. It's like, hey, let's just create this incredibly intricate, winding, confusing path as part of essentially the main hub world, that it feels like you're constantly in a labyrinth in this maze with a bunch of dead ends and constantly having to backtrack and attempt other paths while you're dealing with random encounters. That's good game design, right? Uh, but ultimately, I am actually still enjoying it quite a bit. The It's very, very unique battle system. If you've never played any of the Mega Man Battle Network games before, incredibly unique battle system, very much a hybrid of action and RPG, but in a very unique, like kind of run and gun format that has been a staple of Mega Man ever since the NES. So, but it's got a really, really interesting, really unique battle system, and I am very much looking forward to moving on to further games in the franchise, which apparently learned from the
Yeah.
follies of the earlier installments. But I am still enjoying the game quite a bit. Really wished I didn't have to backtrack as much and reach a bunch of dead ends. But one of the cool things is the fact that a lot of the big moments you have to switch between Lan, the human character, and Mega Man in the net. Like you'll run into issues where something bad will happen in the net, and Lan has to do something in the real world to help Mega Man. So that's been really cool. And there's all these parallels between the map and the net and the real world, and it's some obvious issues with the first game, but I'm really digging it so far. Very much looking forward to also ignoring that game here in a couple of hours, but I'm enjoying it so far, and I hope you get the opportunity at some point to try it yourself, bud. But what about you?
Yeah, I'll play those one day. You
One
know,
day,
who
indeed.
knows? Who knows when? Everything kind of goes on hold for Zelda. I had the intention of finishing a lot of things before Zelda. Didn't work out
The
that way.
best laid plans.
Yeah, didn't work out that way. I wanted to finish Card Shark in particular before Zelda. I'm close. I'm deep into Card Shark and really enjoying it. I think I'm too
Good.
stupid for the game, but I am really enjoying it. I look, dude, it didn't take me long to crank that thing down to the easy difficulty and just coast and just take all the hints I can get. That
That's
game
fair.
requires you to retain a lot of stuff, to especially like memorization, when you're learning the card tricks and stuff in that game.
Hey, no
Like
shame, man. I cannot brain.
it gets hard very fast. So I definitely, if you're playing Card Shark and if you feel that the puzzles or whatever, it's not puzzles is a stretch, but it definitely like has a lot of steps to the
Yeah.
tricks and a lot of memorization required. And being able to like hit a button and see like, for I'll give you an example, right? There's a trick where at a certain point, the guy, your partner that you're working with, the compt or
Yeah.
whatever, he will swap out. You'll pretend to be pouring his wine, and he'll
Yeah.
swap out the decks in
The
your
decks. Yep.
pocket. And then
Yep.
you need to like go back into the room pretending to refill the wine bottle and go through and put basically dummy cards, duplicate cards in the deck so he gets the better hand. And then later, so that people don't catch you with duplicate cards, you have to take the deck back and remember the cards that you put in there and take them back out. And like without a like help, without being able to hit a button to say these are the cards that you put in there, like you would just have to memorize that otherwise. No, cannot do that. That is just no. I just don't have the mental capacity to do that. So stuff like that's nice. They also have a function in there where if you
Game, you're
fail,
asking me to keep track of more than two things at
no.
once. It
Yeah,
cannot
no.
happen.
Some of the tricks are easy and like and like the controls are fun and intuitive and stuff, and I really actually like the story quite a bit. Um but the but there, there's situations where if you fail certain scenarios, like if you come back later to do them again, they'll be like, "Hey, do you just want to like skip this and progress the story on easy difficulty?" And I'll be like, "Yes."
Yes, please.
So yeah, but liking it though. It's good, but I haven't finished it, and I'll come back to it and finish it up a little bit later. But Zelda, is the big one. This past weekend, after kind of like you, after we did last week's episode, I got sucked back into SteamWorld Heist and
I saw,
just
yeah.
played through the whole thing this weekend. Like did like an 11-hour complete playthrough. of Steamrolled Heist. That game's immaculate. I love that game so much. Talked about it much more last week, so I won't belabor it
Yeah,
too
check
much.
out our indie showcase from last week.
Yeah, just listen to that. It's a great game, and yeah, I did a full playthrough of it last weekend. Um, I tried to put in some work for Team Courage during the
Mm-hmm.
Splatfest. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
wind up panning out because Team Power swept the entire thing.
Yeah, they did.
It was a Team Power sweep. Like I think nobody else even got anything on the board in terms of the criteria. It was all Team Power. So congrats, I guess, to anybody who played Team Power. I couldn't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I played through The Force Unleashed a couple times, and I really wanted to put some time into the Splatfest as well. But some weird family stuff came up. My cousin, who I actually hadn't seen in about
Oh yeah.
16 years, came into town, so I wound up having to spend. I say having to spend. He came into town, so of course, I hadn't seen him in a decade and a half, so I went over
Yeah.
to spend some time with him because I'm probably not going to have another uh, opportunity to do that for possibly another decade and a half. But I did really want to put some time. I even look at it. I even got the thing. I got the thing. I got the.
Oh yeah,
I
the
got
keychains.
the Splatfest Triforce keychains. I got
Yeah.
those. Those are really cool. What actually the first My Nintendo physical rewards I've ever gotten.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I refrained from getting those because I got them the last time they did it, and I've
Yeah,
never used it. So
yeah, I know.
it's like whatever. They're cool though.
There,
But Eric, there's plenty of news to talk about this week, my friend.
there
Plenty
is.
of news. So what do you say we get into it?
Nice. Let's get the. I can't words right now. I apologize. I've still got Zelda on the brain. Let's talk about it.
Hey, listen!
So Eric, I believe this happened on Tuesday. We
Mm-hmm.
got some new information from Nintendo's quarterly financial briefing, and there's some quite interesting things
Yeah.
to glean from this. It's not the kind of thing I won't bog down too much, but I did pick out the highlights of this because there are some interesting things. First up, let's talk about the hardware update. The Nintendo Switch
Mm-hmm.
currently at 125.6 million units sold globally.
125
Yeah,
million. 125.
yeah,
God.
yeah, and that is without ever having a price cut. It's the third best-selling piece of video game hardware of all time, behind the PS2 and the DS family.
Yeah.
And it has
And
some. It has quite a bit to go, but before it reaches that level. But it has gotten this far without a single price cut.
and I would also like to add the point was also made. This is without a quote unquote pro version. We've got the Switch Lite and we have the Switch OLED, but they're this is still the same processing. This is still the same specs that we've had since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
There is no Switch Pro. There is no Switch XL. This is still the exact same machine that we've had for 6 years now that has got these sales numbers. That is bonkers to me, because when it comes to a lot of other we've got the PS4 Pro and upgraded versions of other consoles that have factored into lifetime sales, but no, the Switch is like, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, it is time. It is time for a hardware refresh, and they know
Absolutely.
that. And they know that. But it is worth notating the hardware sales did slow and plateau pretty dramatically this year. We're actually down 22% year over year, down 18% for the quarter, and they had the goal of 15 million units sold this year, and Furukawa was even like, I don't know if we're gonna hit that. So we'll see. Furukawa also said, quote, sustaining the Switch's sales momentum will be difficult in its 7th year. Our goal of selling 15 million units this fiscal year is a bit of a stretch, but we will do our best to bolster demand going into the holiday season so that we can achieve the goal, end quote. What that means to me is that we might see the first ever price cut this holiday. We might also see bundles that are a bit more attractive than we've seen in the past. Another thing that the Switch has never really done is the bundles for the holiday have just been, here's Mario Kart.
Here's
You
Mario
know,
Kart. Yep.
that's what it's been. So I wouldn't be shocked if you see a price cut this holiday and if you see a more attractive bundle than just here's the game that most of you already own. So
The first thing that I thought of when I saw the sales projections, that 15 million sales projection,
mm-hmm.
was, I understand that there's been a very notable dip. 22% is a massive dip, especially when it comes to the size of numbers that we're talking about. But in the 7th year of their current console, is like, yeah, we still predict that we will outsell the lifetime sales of our previous console in the 7th year of our current console.
Yeah, no, look, these are still meteoric. It's still a meteoric success. And the thing is like, you're always, of course, it's going to dip. They're not going to maintain that momentum for forever.
Of course, yeah.
You know, it took them 7 years to finally start to plateau and finally get to the point where like PS5 is starting to outsell Switch in some of these markets and things.
Well, I mean, the Switch has something like a 3.5 year record of being the best-selling hardware platform on the market.
Yeah,
where you have some very attractive options out there, especially now for the Switch. I mean, the Switch was an absolute juggernaut. The fact that it's only now starting to dip in and of itself is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, you can't take anything away from what the Switch has achieved so far, but it is, kind of finally time to start evaluating what's next, because there is starting to be a little bit of a plateau. And even though Furukawa has said that they're going to do their best to bolster demand going into the holidays so that they can still kind of limp towards their 15 million goal, he also said that new hardware is not factored into their annual forecast and that new hardware is not planned for this fiscal year, which ends March 31st, 2024. So now this means nothing. People have been latching on to that. I do think that we're going to get a Switch Pro next spring. I do think we're going to get a hardware bump. I don't think it's going to be a full successor. I do think it's going to be kind of on the scale that we saw with PS4 Pro. The thing will upscale to 4K. It'll probably have a better like Wi-Fi card in it. I do think that's coming. And I do think it's coming after this fiscal year. However, this is also the company that in the past has denied hardware and then announced hardware literally the following day.
The next day. Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, you and I both very vividly remember when they said, yep, we have no new model of the Switch planned for announcement or release. And then actually less than 24 hours later premiered the OLED.
Oh, that you're thinking of the DS Lite was the 24 hours, but the OLED was soon after another situation like this from a financial report. The OLED was another situation where they said like, there's no new hardware plan, but here's the OLED. So yeah, they but the DS Lite, it was actually the next day. So like it was literally the day after denial. So very, very funny. So you can't.
The day after denial, by the way, would be a great band name.
So you really can't read too much into statements like these, because if there was new hardware, he's not gonna say, especially when a limited edition console's fresh on the market, he's not gonna be like, yeah, just hang on, Switch Pro's coming this year. He's not gonna say that. I've never really thought Switch Pro's coming this year anyway, but I think it's probably safe to pump the brakes. I think they're gonna do a price cut. They're going to have like a more attractive bundle for the holiday, limp them to their goal, kind of hold out a little bit longer, and then next spring, bring out the hardware bump. We're all going to buy it. It's going to be the kind of thing where your games are going to run better on it. It will be backwards compatible. There's no way it won't be. So anyway, that's kind of the hardware stuff. In terms of software, we've got another crazy milestone. Nintendo Switch software has officially surpassed 1 billion units sold. That's with a B. 1 billion units sold for software.
Yeah, that's the clearest indicator of anything that the next hardware follow-up for the Nintendo Switch is going to be backwards compatible. There's no way Nintendo is going to create another machine and not give people the opportunity to play that 1 billion cartridges out there in circulation.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. It's like there's precedent for this too. Like the 3DS plays the DS games and it's a cartridge based
Yeah.
system. It's going to be the exact same thing. Your cartridge slot on the Switch Pro or whatever is just also going to take regular Switch games. It's
Yep.
that simple. So yeah, huge milestone there. We got updated numbers for some of the games that have released this quarter. Nintendo Switch has had some major first party releases like Fire Emblem Engage, which ended up selling 1.61 million units.
Very
Um,
nice.
Pretty good, pretty
Yeah.
respectable for Fire Emblem. That's a kind of evergreen title that'll continue to
Of
sell.
course. Yep.
Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe sold 1.46 million. Also very good. The Kirby franchise never really. This is kind of where they land, especially with remakes and stuff like this. The highest selling game in the franchise is Forgotten Land, and
With like
that's
6 or 7 million.
it's I think right at 6 million.
Yeah.
So this is not like some blockbuster franchise. Neither is Metroid. Metroid Prime remastered ended up doing 1.09 million as the latest numbers, but it's a million copies of a game that was effectively shadow dropped, and got like all of the
that's
positive
just
press.
physical.
Yeah, these are all physical numbers. Nintendo doesn't report on digital stuff, so yeah, pretty crazy, man. Good sales, good software sales. They
I'm
did
sure
well.
for Metroid Prime Remastered, especially because it shadow dropped digitally and we had to wait a couple days for the physical, I bet there was a significant spike of digital downloads for that game from people who didn't want to wait. So
yeah, and they're unclear when they report to the NPD. They don't report digital, but I don't know how it is with their actual financial reports or not. Regardless, they're good numbers across the board for all of these. Most, a lot of people would be happy to remaster a 20-year-old game and sell 1 million copies. So, and then you
Heck
also
yeah,
have
man.
to you got to consider too. People would look at that and be like, only 1 million. The best-selling game in the franchise is Dread with 3 million. So like again, these are not franchises that typically do that well. So anyway, this is all relative. This is kind of the stuff to pick apart from the quarterly financial briefing. Very cool stuff, man. But Eric, we also got a little bit of updated news. I told you guys we would circulate back to this whenever we got new info for Nintendo Live 2023, and we finally have that info. We know when it's taking place, we know where it's taking place, and we know how you can get tickets, at least potentially.
Potentially, yeah. I understand where they're coming from. I do understand where they're coming from because, so often, and we've seen it so many times with like high demand pre-orders where you basically just need to be in front of your computer at the right time to even have a prayer of securing a pre-order, of securing, whatever it is that you want to buy. This is a nice way of giving people a good chance, of giving more people an opportunity to get tickets. But the fact that it is still left up to chance, really, I mean, I do feel some type of way about that. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, it's unfortunate for people like you and I, but this event's not for people like you and I, at least not just for people like you and I. They have this thing taking place over the course of Labor Day weekend. They're doing that for a reason, right? It's from September 1st to September 4th at the newly revamped, renovated Seattle Convention Center, which just this past, I think back in March or April, just recently got like fully renovated, like a $2 billion, something like that renovation, basically adding a second building to it. And so it's actually going to be happening concurrently with PAX West in the same location.
Yeah.
If you can imagine it, PAX West is going to be happening basically in one building, and then there's going to be like a sky bridge leading to the other building where Nintendo Live is happening.
That's
at
so
the
nuts.
same time.
Like, what a weekend.
Yeah. So the way this works, as Eric alluded to, registration opens on May 31st. Which is also the same day that you can get PAX West tickets. And registration will be open until June 22nd. Now, when you register, you do need to have a Nintendo account. You can register with a group of up to 6 people, so that families can register at the same time. They do need to be on the same family account if you're registering as a family, and they all need to have their own Nintendo accounts. And I'm assuming the reason for this is to avoid scalpers. This basically eliminates scalpers. If you require people to have a Nintendo account, there are going to be much less people scalping because you can't just register and rando and there you go, you get it.
Yeah.
Um, Now, when you do all of that, when you're registered, you are entered into a random drawing for a free 1 day pass to the event. So I'm assuming the way this is going to work, registration hasn't opened yet, so I don't know exactly, but you're probably going to be able to go in and select the days that you're interested in attending, and then you will get into the drawing to get for one of those days, or if there's only 1 day, then the day that you selected,
Yep.
you'll get randomly entered in to get a free ticket to the event. And PAX West goers can register completely separately from that, which would probably give you a better chance. It's not guaranteed still, but because the pool of people that are attending PAX West is going to be just inherently smaller than the general pool, if you are attending PAX West, I recommend that you register that way because I think you have a much higher chance of getting Nintendo Live tickets. And yeah, like it's kind of unfortunate because it would be great to just like buy tickets and have guaranteed access and everything.
Yeah,
But this,
because you and I were fully intending on coordinating so that you and
yeah,
I could, go to the show and maybe even record something from Nintendo Live together. However, because we are not on the same Nintendo family NSO like family plan or Nintendo family account, you and I really can't coordinate that way unless you want to, legally become my son or something like that. Maybe we can do it that way. But yeah, in addition to that, we can't coordinate. And on top of that, yes, the tickets are free, which is wonderful, but you're only getting a 1 day pass. It's not a
mhm.
full weekend pass. So you basically just have to hope you get the opportunity to go there for just 1 day.
Yeah, yeah. So it's so that the maximum amount of people have access to it this way,
Yeah.
right? The maximum amount of people have access to this where it is, it's free, it's random, it's just 1 day, so they can make more passes available for people who want to register. So that way you don't just like get to go all 4 days. And it's probably going to be at the scale to where you can probably kind of see and do what you want to do in 1 day anyway. So I I understand completely why they've taken the approach to it. Would it have been nice to see it handled like the other way, where you and I could have just coordinated easily? Sure, but what I will say, and what I think I'm probably going to wind up doing, my wife and I have been talking about it, is there's another huge video game event
Exactly.
happening
Yeah.
right next
PAX.
door
Yeah.
that is guaranteed that you can just buy a ticket for, and you even have a better chance of getting Nintendo Live tickets doing it that way. So currently, I'm kind of in the position of like, I think I might just buy and just go to PAX West. And if I can get a free pass to Nintendo Live also, then great. Because at that point, if I buy the 4 day pass for PAX West, I can go to all 4 days of that, and then just apply for all 4 days of Nintendo Live, and my chance is optimally high of getting into it, you know? So that's kind of where I'm at. Thinking about it hard, Eric.
Yeah. We should do that.
Yeah, that's
We
my
should do
current
that.
plan. So we'll see. We'll figure it out. I really want to go. I mean, to have both of those events right next door to each other is awesome. I mean
Oh,
that's
yeah.
so fun. I love Seattle too. I haven't been in several years, so it's been high time for me to make my return to the Pacific Northwest. So
Been high time to go back to the Mile High, or that's Denver. That's Denver. I
yeah,
apologize.
yeah. So that would be cool. We'll see. We'll keep everybody updated when that
Yep.
happens. May 31st, that's when you can get either your PAX West tickets or register for Nintendo Live. So we will see what happens. But
But there's a
wanted
better
to,
than zero chance that we'll be creating content from PAX West this year.
yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, like we'll see what happens, man. But wanted to flag this thing that actually I think just came out like today as the time we're recording this. Day of the Devs has
Hmm.
confirmed the return of their summer showcase, basically happening right after the Summer Game Fest opening
Yep.
presentation, which is on, I believe, June 8th. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Jeff Keighley came out and they confirmed like, hey, Summer Games Fest is returning. It's June 8th. Here's this wall full of companies, developers, publishers, and sponsors who are joining us. And that's probably going to be pretty cool. There might be a few announcements from that for
Nintendo,
us,
not one
but
of them, I don't think.
Nintendo, not one of them. No. Always consistently has been much more interesting, historically interesting for us, is the follow-up indie game showcase, Day of the Devs, which will be happening right after the main show. I will say this is the first show that Summer Games Fest will be happening in with a live audience. This is the
Mm.
first like truly post-pandemic Summer Games Fest, which is really cool. But very, very excited for Day of the Devs. There's always a bunch of amazing indie games that we have to look forward to. And we already know one of them. Friend of the show, Greg Lobanov, mastermind behind such games as Wander Song and Chicory, has already confirmed that they have quote unquote big news to share June 8th at Day of the Devs. We got that random tease of a weird character drawing. It felt like years ago at this point. It was a while ago,
It was
but we
about
got
a
a
year
random
ago.
tease.
Yeah.
We got a random tease of a character on Twitter. We haven't really seen hide nor hair of what they've been working on since, but it is definitely worth noting that they also just announced the creation of a brand new studio. So, creation of a brand new studio, and on top of that, they functionally confirmed that they are announcing their new game June
Yeah.
8th. At Day of the Devs, and if Wander Song, if Chicory has anything to go off of, then this is going to be a game that you're going to want to check out. Day one. Wishes Unlimited, by the way, the name of that new studio founded under Greg Lobanov.
Yeah, very very cool, man. And it's essentially just formalizing the little group of people he's always kind of made games
Yeah,
with since
yeah,
Wonder Song. So very very cool. Yeah, definitely gonna be something to keep. We were gonna watch it anyway, but if you're a fan of Wander Song and Chicory, then yeah, definitely tune in to Day of the Devs on June 8th. Very
yeah.
much looking for. Eric's got his Wander Song, his Bard plush there. So yeah, very cool, man. I'm excited to see what they've been cooking up.
I am
Um,
too.
and speaking of cooking, Hollow Knight Silk Song gonna be cooking a little while longer. Eric.
Yeah. So, Tears of the Kingdom put me personally into a win-win type of situation because the Nintendo pals drafted it.
Yeah.
And I was in a situation where either it comes out and it's amazing and I get to play another amazing Zelda game, which was, always going to be the case. But on the off chance it wound up being disappointing, then it didn't really matter because it was going to help us out in our fantasy draft against the Nintendo pals. Because, of course, we were still going to win. Because, of course, we had in our back pocket the killer app, The Ringer, Hollow Knight Silk Song to fall back on. And I've got to say, it's making me a little nervous now, Seth.
I think it still comes out this year. I do. But it
I
was
hope
delayed.
so.
It was delayed.
Because, yeah, an hour after I was talking trash to Andros on Discord about us still being projected to win by 15 points, literally an hour after I was trash talking Andros, they changed the projections, and now we're apparently projected to lose by 5 points. Now, all that to say, we still have another draft coming up soon, but still, it's
Yeah, this is all
getting,
just very early stuff. Yeah.
still
Yeah.
getting nervous. Not gonna lie.
I'm not nervous. I think it's still coming out this year. I mean, maybe that's what are the copium? Is that what people say? Maybe that's what it is. But it did get delayed. It was originally slated to release in the first half of the year because people might remember at Xbox's Summer Showcase last year, Silk Song was sort of re-revealed, and the date was like kind of there's no official date, but they said everything you see will be out in the next 12 months. And they like reconfirmed that Silksong was one of those, meaning that it would have launched before June of this year. Well, here we are in mid-May, and we're seeing it get delayed. Team Cherry head of marketing and publishing Matthew Griffin tweeted, quote, "Hey gang, just a quick update about Silksong. We had planned to release in the first half of 2023, but development is still continuing. We're excited by how the game is shaping up, and it's gotten quite big, so we want to take the time to make the game as good as we can. Expect more details from us once we get closer to release," end quote, which tells me they didn't put out a new date. They didn't say like it'll still come out in 2023, whatever. I think it will, but
yeah, I know when it comes to not settling, when it comes to not confirming a release date, yeah, that also makes me a little nervous. But Hollow Knight Silksong is also the type of game to where a release date announcement itself is a massive deal that you could very easily see at something like a Nintendo Direct, and is probably going to take place at an Xbox showcase, a PlayStation State of Play, or a Nintendo Direct. So it does make me a little nervous. They didn't even confirm a launch window, but when it comes to a launch date for that game, that is always going to be a big announcement. So I'm falling back on that.
Well, what's nice is that like that final line, I think, is the important thing. Expect more details from us once we get closer to release. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to drop this like a new trailer if they end up doing a September Direct, whenever they wind up doing that kind of fall slot Direct, we see Silksong there, and we get a hard release date, and it's like soon after. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I just can't imagine. This game's been in development for so long.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine they were confident enough to say no, first half of 2023, delay it like within the final month of that deadline. If it's going to be delayed by more than 6 months, I just can't imagine the delay would have happened this late into it. So that's my hope. I think it's still this year, but we shall see.
Indeed.
We'll keep everybody updated, of course. But this is an interesting little thing. I wanted to flag this here. Pokemon developer Game Freak has teased an upcoming project being published by private division called Project Bloom. Now, all we've seen of this is a piece of concept art, which has got this character standing in like a swamp environment, not expected until fiscal year 2026. And who knows if this is going to come to Nintendo platforms or not, but it is Game Freak, so you never know.
It is Game Freak, the team most famous behind, of course, Harmo Knight and Little Big Town, mostly famous for those games. But I assume that it's going to be worth checking out, whatever it winds up being. I'm sure they still need that one real breakout franchise, so this will probably be it for them.
Yeah, they need a big break. The Game Freak, that little upstart company, they need something to really take off.
But I mean, a lot of people are surprised by this, but yeah, Game Freak has made other games. I mean, as a matter of fact, we just got a used to be non-Nintendo Game Freak game on the Nintendo Switch recently. It's called Pulseman.
Yeah, Pokemon is like a mid-tier Game Freak franchise, in my opinion. Like, that's my hot take. I would put Pokemon pretty much in the middle of the games they've made. Like, I like most of the games they've made more than I like any of the Pokemon games. So,
but still, they're most famous for Pokemon, but they have made quite a few other games. But this is still a really, really interesting story, because a lot of those other games have been kind of distractions from Pokemon for the most part. But it looks like they are planning on putting some big resources behind this next endeavor. So I'm interested to see what it looks like.
Yeah, it's interesting. Game Freak has this studio culture called this thing called Gear Project. And what this is they allow people from the team to pitch, essentially, games, and this is how, and if like the pitch is accepted, then Game Freak's like, hey, we'll find a publishing partner and we'll kind of shop this around, and we'll put kind of some of our resources and our force behind it. And they call these Gear Projects. They've done 3 of them in the past. First one was Harmonite that they published with Nintendo. Second one was Card Jockey, which they also published with Nintendo. The third one was Little Big Town, which they published with, I think, Atlas. I don't think that was a Nintendo published game.
Sounds right. That sounds right.
And
I have to double check on that. But...
yeah, so they published that there, and this will be the fourth one. This is the fourth Gear Project game. So
what about Timbo the elephant? Who did they do that with?
That was Sega, actually. They did Tembo with Sega. Yeah. I think Tembo was actually before they kind of coined this Gear Project thing, but yeah, the Game Freak, people don't realize, not owned by Nintendo. They work with Nintendo on a second party basis. Game Freak very much does their own thing, and that's how you get things like this. So this is going to be published by Private Division, who is maybe most well known for publishing things like, I think they just came out with Dead Island 2, I think they published with Deep Silver. And then they published Outer Worlds, if I'm not mistaken. So they're like a Take-Two subsidiary, Private Division. So this project,
Little Town Hero actually has Game Freak listed as the publisher.
Oh, maybe they self-publish. Yeah. So they did all that, and it's a cool initiative, like internally, to keep these kind of new, fresh ideas coming.
Yep.
Sometimes they're great successes, sometimes they're not. We'll see what happens here. We quite literally just have this concept art. Kind of looks Ghost of Tsushima-ish.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, so check it out for yourself. It'll be cool. We'll see what ends up happening. If this comes to a Nintendo platform, we don't know. Game Freak does typically release their games on Nintendo platforms, but Tembo never came to Nintendo platforms. And it's clear from this concept art that it looks like they're going for kind of a photoreal kind of element. And in fact,
more mature feel at the very least.
For sure. And they even said in their statement, like, this is a very different IP from anything Game Freak's done before. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is targeting like next gen consoles. So we'll see.
Wouldn't surprise me either. Would not surprise me either. But honestly, when it comes to the news, I mean, here we are on Thursday night. We don't typically do this so early in the week. Always the potential for a couple of things to happen. There was one thing that I was really hoping would happen by the time we started recording tonight. Ed Boon has been on Twitter trolling us all week. Like, we know that a Mortal Kombat 12 the /1/ whatever you want to believe. We know that a new Mortal Kombat announcement is imminent and could very well happen by the time the podcast episode goes live. And I'm actually still thinking that we may get a big NSO update probably right after we record this. So a couple of the things may happen, but as always, we will share them with you as we get the opportunity. But we still do have a couple notable releases from this past week to talk about, Seth, and not all of them have Legend of Zelda in their title.
A few things were brave enough to release next to Legend of Zelda. That's right.
So more power to you. Power to you. One we absolutely don't want you guys to forget is Dokapon Kingdom Connect.
Yeah.
This, like, Seth and I are going to pick it up. We're going to try to play some with the community. This is a game that I'm super excited. It was an old Wii game, a big like RPG board game style experience, a ton of fun. Dokapon Kingdom Connect released just a few days ago on the Nintendo Switch. At the very least, check it out on the eShop.
Yeah. The Dokapon Kingdom, on PS2, it was a remake of an old Super Famicom game, I believe. Either Famicom or Super Famicom. And then the PS2 version was ported to Wii, and now that version has been ported to Switch with full online multiplayer. So very, very cool. I know Sam, Third Strongest Mole, is a huge Dokapon Kingdom fan. I watched him play through that game on his Twitch channel. So I'm very much looking forward to picking this up. It's literally just timing. If this had come out earlier, then sure, why not? But it released in Japan a month ago, so we're only just now getting it. Unfortunate, but we'll get to it. We will get to it. We will play it.
Indeed. Honestly, you know more about the other two than I do. I don't honestly know too much about Fuga.
Yeah, so Fuga Melodies of Steel, if you are one of like three other people who ever played any of the other Tail Concerto games, which is like Little Bronx Tale, and Sola Torobo Red the Hunter for the Nintendo DS, they released a third game in that series that a lot of people don't know about on the Nintendo Switch called Fuga Melodies of Steel. These are like kind of, visual novel strategy RPGs with anthropomorphic animals kind of in like grim wartime situations. And really good, like really good writing and like really good characters and gameplay, like very good games. And it kind of was slept on. This is kind of the passion project of that team, CyberConnect. They work on like high profile stuff to essentially keep the lights on and fund the Fuga games. So they worked on stuff like they were one of the lead developers on the Final Fantasy VII remake. And they are the people who made like the Dot Hack games back in the day, but they keep coming back to this Tail Concerto series. This is where their heart is. And they completely self publish these games, they own all the rights, and they release a ton of DLC. They still, I think up to just like a couple of months ago, we're still releasing DLC for the first Fuga, and now Fuga Melodies of Steel 2 is out, and unfortunately they've dropped it right next to Tears of the Kingdom, but yeah, like a sequel to a very highly regarded game. I almost put it into our fantasy draft. The only reason I didn't is because I didn't know how many people were going to review it because of the
Exactly.
proximity.
Yeah.
But very well regarded games, very very well regarded. And then this other one I have in here, local news with Cliff Rockslide.
hmm
I do really want to play this. This is an indie game that has a very kind of reminds me of a game that I really love that I still can't believe is not on Switch called Jazz Punk, which is like a
Yeah.
first person like comedy game really. And local news with Cliff Rockslide looks like that. It's got this kind of PS1 aesthetic. But it's all about like this news reporter Cliff Rockslide in like crazy and dangerous situations. It looks very fun, very funny. I really really want to play it, but again, bad timing. So
Yeah, because of course, when it comes to notable releases, maybe the most notable release when it comes to Nintendo consoles for the next half a decade just dropped on us, or is dropping in just a couple hours for us. Of course, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Here we are, we're at ground zero. It's finally time to jump, to dive even back into Hyrule and to immerse ourselves in what by all accounts is going to be an absolutely phenomenal experience. I genuinely don't know why any other games released this week at the very least. But I absolutely still want to play Dokkan Kingdom. I do want to check out Fuka based on what you said, but why? But why, guys?
yeah.
Why would you do that to yourselves?
Yeah, and look, we're certainly going to be talking about Zelda quite a bit. We will, of course, be reviewing it here on the show when the time comes.
Absolutely.
We're gonna be taking our time because the game's big, right? But like I'm going to my midnight launch tonight, 11 p.m. launch, and I'm gonna record an unboxing video when I get home. So look out for that here on the YouTube channel because I'm picking up the game, I'm picking up the amiibo, and the Pro controller, and I'm also getting the little wooden plaque thing that GameStop gives you. So I'll be unboxing that here on the YouTube channel, and there's gonna be so much more Tears of the Kingdom content. Really throughout. I mean, this is the biggest game of the year. We're going to be playing this a lot, and you can expect to see a lot of Tears of the Kingdom stuff from us.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We cannot wait to get our grubby little hands on this, but we also want to hear what you guys are up to. How many of you out there are jumping back into Hyrule this week? And let us know. Reach out to us on Facebook and Twitter at All In Podcast. Come join our amazing community over in the Discord. We've had a Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom room up there in the Discord for some time already. Have had an amazing conversation going, especially today while people were trying to find time. They were trying to kill time until the release of the game. Like there was a weird TikTok conversation going on. it was
Our
bonkers, but
so good.
Yeah, join our community over in the Discord. You won't regret it. Also, make sure to like and follow youtube.com/allinpodcast, which if you're watching to us live, you can do right now with just a couple clicks of the button. But if you are watching, or if you are listening rather to the podcast, you should at some point in the near future go to youtube.com/allinpodcast. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. But in addition to all the content that we produce, both video and podcast and everything else, Seth, we also produce exclusive content for our patrons.
We do 2 exclusive podcasts every single week just for our patrons. There are a bunch of friends and supporters over there already who throw a couple of bones our way for our hard work, and we appreciate them very much. Head over to patreon.com/allinpodcast, see which of those tiers works for you, and get access to all kinds of stuff. Like discounts on our merch are available, bit.ly/allinmerch. Get yourself a shirt, get yourself a mug, get yourself a sticker, and again, throw a few bones our way for our hard work over here. We certainly appreciate it, but if you don't have any bones to throw our way, that's okay too. You can, as always, drop some words. Leave us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, and Audible, and of course, you can leave 5-star ratings on Spotify, just like all of those amazing people did this past week. Really appreciate y'all for those. It is a super easy, free, and appreciated way to support us over here and get our show in front of the people who need to hear it. Thank you guys so much.
We are surrounded by so many awesome people, all of our amazing fans out there dropping words, all of our incredibly legendary patrons out there helping keep the lights on over here at All In, and to all of you just amazing people who have just simply shared our content around the internet. Guys, we just want to say a massive, massive thank you. And of course, namaste.
Namaste. That's the news, everybody. Appreciate y'all for coming out. Keegan, DeWitt, Locklith, Bowza. My little brother was in here. Trav's in here. I don't know if he's still hanging out or not. I'm gonna be seeing him here in like 30 minutes. I'm about to run out the door and head over to my parents' house for my wife's birthday party. But
nice.
Appreciate
Happy
y'all
birthday, Anastasia.
Yeah, appreciate y'all for coming out. Be on the lookout for a unboxing video, like I said, probably later tonight. As soon as I get home, I'm gonna record it and hopefully get that out to you guys. A lot of Tears of the Kingdom content coming. I'm gonna be streaming it quite a bit tomorrow on Carpool Gaming's Twitch channel, twitch.tv/carpoolgaming live, and I'll also be streaming it here on our YouTube channel, probably on Saturday. So be out on the lookout for plenty of Tears of the Kingdom content. And of course, the full podcast, which you can find links to in the video description, goes live on Saturday as well, where you will hear the top 5 terrible moms that you're glad you don't have this Mother's Day. Which is kind of a funny, little top 5 we came up with. Something to make you appreciate the good moms out there this Mother's Day. Let's talk about the terrible moms in Nintendo history. We've got a fun indie showcase on Lil Gator game, because there just was no other game that we could do an indie showcase on for Zelda weekend. And then we've got a fun interview with the Strong Museum. We're going to be talking to them about the World Video Game Hall of Fame and about the gigantic Donkey Kong cabinet that they came up with. So
the world's largest playable Donkey Kong cabinet.
Yeah, man. So fun episode hitting your podcast feeds tomorrow.
Absolutely.
But until then, go play some Zelda, folks. That's what we're gonna do.
Nice, yeah. Tears of the Kingdom, baby. It's here.
We made it. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.